There we go.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's very, very early here in Malaysia. I've had one cup of coffee, so bear with us.
I've had one pot of coffee, which is just about enough to kickstart me in the mornings.
Yep, and Millie's had a little saucer of milk. She's just up here. She may join us later, we'll see. So it's still dark outside. Yep. And there's still a party boat from last night making a noise across the other side of the marina.
That's the outside cam, and this time we're pointing it out towards sort of west across the marina. And as you can see, it is still very, very dark here.
Yeah, we should see the sunrise as the morning goes on.
Yeah. Okay, so, well, thank you very much for joining us. We are going to be dealing with a contentious, but I think ultimately a very subjective subject, which is what is the perfect dinghy. But before we dive into that, we should just do a few admin things. So the first thing we should say is thank you very much to everyone who's joined us in the chat already. And already someone has used the super chat, which we'll come on to in a moment. And that's Daniel.
Well done.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And yes, we were very happy with the work we did at PSS. A few things I think with hindsight we may have changed, but minor and sort of not particularly significant.
Yeah.
But let's just quickly talk about the chat. First of all, we should just thank Larry, who is Mobile Tech, and Larry has been a long time follower of our channel, and Larry runs his own YouTube channel, and he is a restorer of trailers, or what we call caravans in the UK. And Larry's a top man, he's a really nice chap, and he's very kindly volunteered to be moderator today. So thank you very much for that, Larry. And we should just say that what Larry's going to be doing is just keeping an eye on the chat. Obviously, the way that the chat works, we get so many questions coming through, we will miss some of them. So Larry will be in there. He knows us pretty well, so he'll be able to answer some of your questions and generally just keep things ticking over very nicely.
Yes, so what we need to be ticked over nicely.
So on the subject of chat, if you saw our last live broadcast, we try to keep it fairly structured. Otherwise it will have a tendency to run away very quickly.
Yeah.
If you look in the description of the live stream, you will see that we have 6 subjects we're going to try and cover on the subject of the perfect dinghy. So if you do have questions, then see if you could try and fit it into each of those sections.
Save it for those sections, because those are the ones we're going to pick up on, and if it's outside dinghies we probably won't be able to pick up on it. If we have enough time at the end, we'll throw it over to general questions.
Yeah. The other thing is there is a feature called Super Chat, and if you look in your chat stream, you will see there's a little $sign. If you click that and you make a little donation, it's like a tip jar or buy us a beer kind of concept, your name flashes up in big lights and we will see that, and the deal is that we stop doing everything and we answer that question.
Yeah.
So feel free to use that, or even just to say hi.
Yeah.
Okay, so right, let's put this whole thing in context.
Yeah, let's explain why this came up.
Yeah. Do you want to explain, or shall I?
I can start and you can. Yeah, so when we went down to Malacca, we met up with someone who's become a friend of ours through our sailing channel, that's Ashraf, and he took us to his factory to have a look round, and while we were there, we looked at his potential boat building business, didn't we? That's right. So Ashraf has hooked up with Bernie of the Far East Asia Marine Dynamics company, and what they do is that they make sort of armoury for the police and the navy. Yeah, for the military, sort of, for the helmets and flak jackets and that kind of thing. That's their core business. Yeah, so Ashraf and Bernie have got together and they have basically decided that they want to start building, well, they already build armoured ribs, don't they, for the Malaysian Navy, but we got chatting to them, didn't we, and they were asking us about what the perfect dinghy was. Yeah, because it's something they'd like to do is to get into the dinghy business. And they're both really keen sailors as well, so obviously there's a love of sailing and a huge history on Bernie's side of sailing and manufacturing. Just before we carry on, just want to say Safet Hamza Jig, $10.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that will buy a beer. Thank you very much. Just one in this marine, a bit more outside. So
we talked about Ashraf. We've got a little clip here of Ashraf talking to camera, explaining his whole concept, and this is what's giving today's live stream a bit of context.
This is actually our factory. This is where we build composite boats as well as the armor stuff for all the military and paramilitary. What we do is basically we armor boats here for the paramilitary, as well as we build ribs. So we have come into this agreement with partnership with Bernie and stuff. So we are building this ultimate rib. So that's where we get input from you guys who have been sailing for a long time on what would be a rib for you guys, knowing that it will be a really good rib. You can take a lot of beating and stuff like that.
Okay, so that was Ashraf. Thank you very much for hooking up with us, Ashraf. We really appreciate your time the other day. Before we go on, we should just, of course, thank everyone for joining us. There's loads of people.
There's too many to say hello to.
Randy, Daniel,
Kia, hi Kia.
TT Cat. They've got a question actually about whaley dinghies. We haven't heard of them. Grandpa's Farm, Smash Dead, and who else we got? Michael, thank you for joining us. Joe, we'll keep trying to name check you as you come in. Adam, thank you very much. But we're going to crack on with this because we said that we're going to do this within 1 hour.
Yeah.
So
throwing open to you guys the idea of a perfect dinghy, because it's something we've been talking about for ages. And is there such a thing?
Well.
Oh, we didn't mention that we don't get any commercial gain from this.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not a plug, it's not a sponsorship, nothing like that. It's just, we thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Actually, Ashraf, I think, has just won the contract for the dealer in Southeast Asia for the Torpedo electric outboard. And that is something that's of interest to us because we like the look of the Torpedo, I have to say. Yeah. I think we'll talk a bit more about that in
it's
in
one of our
bit.
Subjects later. Yeah.
Okay. So taking the 6 questions, the 6 subjects. First one is going to be inflatable or hard.
Yes, indeed. We were going to just mention what we've got, so those that don't know do know.
Yep.
This is our 4th dinghy. It's a high field 290 Hyperlon with an aluminium base. We've had it for about a year. Bought it in Phuket. It was the only dealership there, and we love it. It's great. We've got a Tohatsu 9.8 outboard. Just so you know.
And we should kick off with a little message from Hugo Wego, sailing vessel Hugo Wego. Hey guys. Unfortunately, he says he's going to be in hospital and will miss this broadcast, so I hope you can catch up the recording later.
Hope it all goes well.
Hope it goes well. We have 2 dinghies aboard, an old Dyer Dow with a custom gaff rig that I built and a roll-up inflatable. We clearly couldn't choose a perfect one and ended up with 2 dinghies.
We did.
So,
we did.
Also
happy to win.
Oh, happy to win. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
And also a special mention to Tony, aka T-Bone MC on YouTube, who left a huge long list, didn't he, of what makes the perfect dinghy. So kind of too long to read off here, but
we have included some of his quotes when we come through to each one. So should we get on with it? Should we do the first subject, inflatable or hard? Any questions, comments, whatever, stick them in now. And we're going to start with, well,
we've got a comment here from John Lengberg who says inflatables have to be better than hard for stability and protection of yacht topsides. This is a very good point, and I think that's one of the key things about inflatables is the stability.
Yes.
With hard dinghies, because they don't have that huge amount of air either side of the boat, they tend to be a little bit more unstable when you stand up. And as he also mentions, John says about coming alongside a boat. I mean, this is one of the issues. We've got a lot of friends who've got a lot of Australian friends who have tinnies, which are the aluminium dinghies, which are great for the outback. But a lot of them have had to add some kind of padding down the side because obviously when you come alongside your yacht, then you could
do a lot of damage. But they're good for when you're going to go ashore and you've got barnacles all over rocks and things. You haven't got to worry about puncturing your inflatable, which is the downside of the inflatable. We found when we looked at it, it's ups, downs, it's kind of...
I think hards they're pretty indestructible, really. I mean, it's certainly the aluminium ones, and of course you can beach them. And what I really like about hards is that you can tie them up to any pontoon, any port, any jetty. Quite often covered in clams and mussels, which potentially could rip your inflatable. And the hard dinghy will take some punishment, which is which is great.
Yeah.
We should just say that we did have a hard dinghy, and it was the Portability.
It's a foldable, so that was good, because our main problem with a hard dinghy is that it's storage space. It's fine when it's hanging off the davits, but when we're doing an ocean passage or we want to put it away somewhere, there is just nowhere on our deck. You know, we're a ketch, we're cutter rigged, we're over rigged. There's not any space on the deck to keep it. I think if we had space, it would be really quite probable that we would have got one.
Yeah. And obviously with the Portability, it's just easy to fold up. It was a little bit troublesome unfolding it, because obviously you have to unfold it on deck. You can't unfold it in the water. That was a bit of a problem, but just having that luxury of being able to drag it over coral, not that you should be dragging it over coral, dragging it over rocks, dragging it up beaches, and as I say, just tying it to horrible town jetties. That's what I loved about the hard dinghy. Inflatables, however, of course, because they have that wide freeboard, they are drier, and they can be lighter, and because they're deflatable, it just makes it easier to stow. And you know, we hang our inflatable off the back of Esper when we are coastal hopping, but of course when we start going back across the Indian Ocean or doing longer crossings, we will have to think about deflating it and stowing it. So
yeah, so lots of pros and cons. Just quickly, we've had some super chats. It's brilliant. Thank you so much. Happy to win. And KD Marino.
Thank you very much.
You've just given us your names. You haven't asked a question. But if you ask a question, we will read it out. But thank you very much. And then we had Declan Murray, who says, a bit of a debate after last night about the price of a new diesel engine. Is 10 grand a good price? Okay, it's diesels. It's not. We're not talking dinghies here, but 10 grand. Is that pounds? That's euros. That's roughly what we paid for our beta?
That is roughly what we paid. And when we looked at the equivalent Yanmars, they were approximately the same. So, unfortunately, you know, the problem with these kind of questions is that we only can really base our experience on our own purchasing. We're not buying diesel engine every year. We don't really know, but just from the prices that we looked at, it seemed to be reasonable. Of course, you can pick up much cheaper ones.
Okay, so I just want to go back to the hardtop, because a few people have asked us about the Portland Pudgy. Really, we don't know anything about it, so we can't really answer you on that.
Had a quick look at them. They appear to be quite small. Am I right in saying they're quite small? But they are the ones that have the additional covers in case of emergency. It kind of acts like a life raft.
Yeah, we're going to come on to the life raft thing in a minute. But yeah, it does look quite interesting. The other one a lot of people have mentioned, and someone mentioned it again here, the OC tender. Now, before we put this up, we didn't know anything about it, but we got online and had a look at the OC tender. It's made by a cruising couple. So they decided to build their own dinghy based on all of their experience and all of the things they wanted in a dinghy. And I have to say, it looks bloody brilliant. Sadly for us, we would have to keep it on the davits all the time, which would mean we'd have to get incredibly powerful and good davits added to the back of the boat as well if we were going to do an ocean crossing. Because we couldn't store it on deck. But I have to say, OC tenders look bloody good, don't they?
They really look good. They really do. I like the idea that a couple of cruisers are behind this, and so they spent 8 years travelling around the world and obviously have a lot of experience in using a dinghy. So they kind of did what we're doing now, but actually carried it through and created what is supposed to be a very, very good dinghy. As you say, the only issue really is that you can't deflate it. But what I did like is that you can plane it with a 3 horsepower engine, I think they were saying. I mean, it looks really good. The specifications do look really smart.
It looks dry, it looks stable. Have a look at it.
Yeah, so Rusty on
Yes.
YouTube and Pete Gasson had both mentioned
Yes.
the OC. So
And
thanks.
Edster as
And
well.
Edster, yeah,
And
thanks
a
for
couple of
bringing that.
comments here. So there's one here. Why did you choose to go with an inflatable as opposed to another porter boat after yours got damaged? Yeah, it's a good question, that. Not sure how easy it is to get porter boats here, but I think we'd come to the end of our time with the porter boat and the small engine. We needed to get a little bit bigger, so there are lots of reasons, but one of them was around here you anchor and then you get in your tender and you want to do a bit of exploring, so we needed to be able to go places for a lot longer, didn't we? And we wanted to,
Well, I think it was
bigger waves.
more importantly than that. What you forgot to say is that our porter boat got damaged
Yeah,
when
well,
we got rammed at anchor a couple of years ago in Thailand, and the porter boat was the first thing that got hit, and there was a little bit of damage to that. But more importantly, the porter boat is restricted by the engine size that you can put on the back of it, and I think it's between 3 and 5 horsepower is the maximum that you can put on the back of it. This is a problem when you are using the dinghy for emergencies. There was a time when we were at anchor and we lost control of our steering on the engine when we were trying to leave an anchorage. And a friend of ours had to come out and assist us by lashing his dinghy, an inflatable, to the side of Esper and tow us back into the anchorage. And he had an 8 horsepower engine. I don't think we would have been able to have done that with our porter boat and the 3.2 Yamaha that we had on it.
Yeah.
So that was another consideration, is that in emergency we needed something with a bit more oomph.
Yes. Yes, in fact, Simon Bills just said, would you consider a larger dinghy with a bigger motor in case you have to tow Esper in calm seas? Well, the Highfield and the Tahatsu will do that, so yeah.
Yeah.
Important consideration for us. Huge for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to move on to, I think, something that is really important for liveaboards.
Yeah.
More than anything else, perhaps, is the portability of the boat. Now, we talked about hoisting dinghies up on davits, putting them on deck. So I think the perfect dinghy really should be able to do that.
Yeah. You've got to be able to hoist it, you've got to be able to lower it, you've got to be able to drag it up the beach and drag it down the beach, or carry it. That's a huge consideration. You can actually carry the outboard on its own, and you can move the whole dinghy with the outboard, can't you? It's a little bit much for me. But
one of the reasons why we went for the 9.8 is because I can still lift it with one hand. Just jumping back, Courtney Gorman, sorry, we just missed your question. Aluminium bottom inflatable versus fiberglass bottom. Well, we went for the aluminium, and this is because it is lighter. The other reason was that the model that we had, and someone asked which model we had, whether it was the C or the U. I think it was the U. With ours, it has a floor, so it has the V, and then it has another floor on top. So essentially, it's got a cavity underneath which allows the water to run through, but more importantly, gives that flat inside floor, which makes stowing of or carrying of jerry cans and shopping that much easier. So it was really about the lightness of it. The other thing about fiberglass, which we had heard, is that over the years, fiberglass does tend to start absorbing water.
Yeah, it does.
And
just like a boat,
it gets heavier.
Yeah.
So that's why we went for the aluminium. We have heard people complain, not necessarily of the Highfield, but generally of the hyperlon peeling away from the aluminium after a while. Obviously there are corrosion issues as well, so like anything in boating and in life generally, it is about a compromise. But we went for that lighter dinghy just for the portability, basically, to allow us to move it around.
I love this. Leah Kennedy, I love the way you say aluminium. Well, how else do you say aluminium?
They're going to be typing away going
aluminum.
Did you know, as an aside, both are correct?
Yeah.
So the guy that who discovered the what's it called, periodic table, the guy that discovered aluminium actually called it something else altogether. It wasn't aluminium and it wasn't aluminum. He called it something else, the original name for aluminium. And when it was then transcribed into a British textbook of some description, it was described as aluminium. And the Americans took aluminum because it was closer to what it was originally called. Anyway, both are correct.
They are indeed.
Potatoes, potatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes.
And of course we went for aluminium because of all our Aussie mates who all have tinnies and they swear by them as well. So cheers, guys. Right, where are we up to now? We didn't talk about doubling as a life raft,
yeah,
did
no,
we?
someone talked about the pudgy. Let's talk about this, because I think this is another concern for liveaboards, is that maybe the dinghy should double up as a life raft. Now, we had a Tinker, which was I loved that Tinker.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a really nice
good.
boat. We bought it second hand. It was probably over 20 years old when we bought it. We spent a lot of money doing it up, and the Tinker was one of the only dinghies that was also classified as a life raft. So it had an additional cover that you could put over the top of it. My understanding is that, I only read this recently, someone was saying that Nigel Calder, the god of boat maintenance, only used to use a Tinker. He didn't have a life raft because the Tinker was such a durable, solid piece of equipment. And I think, unlike the pudgy, it's big. It's a really big, really big dinghy.
So we had it as our dinghy.
Yes.
And we had it stowed on deck, but we had it wrapped up and then a cover over it and then lines over the top of it lashing it down. So as a life raft, providing we weren't in any kind of hurry, we'd have to unwrap it, inflate it and get it in the water. So yeah, you could use a boat like that as a life raft, but my concern is if you're in a real hurry to get off the boat, we just wouldn't have got it ready in time. And I'm old-fashioned. I still think have a dinghy, also have a life raft that is built for the purpose. Just one pull and the whole thing's ready to jump straight into, or walk straight into, or walk straight up into, as they say. So for me, I wouldn't have one. I wouldn't depend on the other one. And also, you're not really supposed to sail passages with anything hanging from your davit, so you do need that life raft.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with that.
Someone asking about a Walker Bay. Now, Walker Bay is a boat that we know a couple of friends from way back have Walker Bays, and they are beautiful little boats. They're absolutely fantastic. Again, a little difficult for us to stow, but a brilliant dinghy. Yeah, love it. That was
well, and also like our Tinker,
Robert
it can come with a sailing kit as well, so you can sail it. I think I don't know what the Walker Bay is rated at in terms of horsepower, what size engine you can put on the back. Not sure about that. I don't know if there's a limitation on it.
Yeah, Courtney will come on to securing a bit later. So we talked about portability. Anything else to say on portability, folks? It's a really, really big concern of yachters because we're using it every day, pretty much. And
often dragging it up the beach, and that's another thing that we need to think about, is with the high field we have now, I can, if I have to, just about drag it up the beach on my own, but it is a real workout. So the two of us have to drag up the beach, and we have wheels on the back. Unfortunately, we stupidly went for the crappiest, cheapest wheels, which are absolutely hopeless, because in soft sand, when you try and drag it up the beach, the wheels just dig into the sand. What you want, I think the best of really the big inflatable wheels you can get. They look unsightly, but they're very practical, and you can also get the big fat wide plastic. They're gripless, so they're smooth. Those ones are also supposed to be quite good. But wheels are quite important to drag up those big long beaches. So the alternative, of course, is you just anchor. You just anchor your dinghy on a long line. So you take it ashore, chuck the anchor down, and you know. So that is what a lot of our Aussie friends who have big tinnies do. Yeah, I mean, it's all right if you're just going to a beach because you're going to be all wet and covered in seawater. But if you actually want to go ashore to go shopping, and you're having to leave your dinghy on the beach, and not always such a good idea, but anyway, there's ways and means. Welcome to Mike. I think you must have just joined us, Mike, because we've just been talking about the porter boat, and as we were saying, that is one of the advantages of the porter boat. It's very light. I think it's 28 kilos. So in that little introductory clip, I don't know if you saw, there was it's on the Portability website. It's a video of me putting it together, and I was able to lift it up and carry it like a tortoise. Yeah. It was that light, and so dragging that up at the beach was a piece of piss, wasn't it? Easy. It was very easy. And that's where those lighter folding boats do have an advantage, is that portability. So perhaps something that if you're a solo sailor, you know, useful consideration.
Yep.
Okay, so the next subject is going to be strength, and obviously we've talked about portability, but with that comes a compromise. The strength of the materials, I suppose. I mean, there's so many different materials out there. You know, we talked about aluminium hulls, fiberglass hulls. Doesn't the OC, hasn't that got Kevlar? Or?
I think it's got Kevlar. It's got some amazing materials in it. Yeah, and it's foam rather than inflatable, obviously. Yeah, there's a whole load of things out there.
One thing we talked about with Ashraf was, I think it's called Hypalon 80. I'm not sure.
Military grade
It's
one?
military grade, and he said that this is stab proof.
Yes.
So, and there are videos out there on YouTube. I think he was describing a guy who was filleting a fish or something, and he dropped a fish knife into the dinghy and it literally just bounced off. Love the idea of that. I really do, because I'm still more swaying towards inflatables, but my main concern is its puncturability. And so if it was made of something like stab-proof Hypalon, that's pretty much up there with maybe a carbon fibre base.
And they were talking about also having pockets rather than tubes, so that if one pocket goes, it doesn't actually affect the whole boat. But you know, this is high-grade military stuff, but why not? It's all about safety, isn't it?
Well,
What
I
else
like
have
this.
we got?
Randy says he loves his dinghy. It's very little. It does the dishes, it does the laundry, and a couple of drinks asleep very well, and can make quite the romping.
Oh, thank you, Randy West.
Who else have we got? Hi to Daniel Voon and to Jerry, and I think there are a few others. Chat's going so fast, but Larry's on the case, so thank you, Larry, for keeping up with everyone in the chat. So yeah, we're just talking about strength. If you've just joined us, the strength and that durability of the dinghy. The other thing, of course, is that we don't want to have to be repairing our dinghy every year or every 2 years. We you know, the dinghy is your transport. It is your car. It's how you get from sea to shore and around about. And so it needs to be a good investment.
It does, yeah. It's pretty important. It's something we use every day. A couple of people have been talking about using davits, and I have to say that in the refit you decided we would put davits on, and it is brilliant. Just makes life so much easier. Just whip it out at night and put it back in the morning.
Yeah, it took us a while to come round to davits, didn't we? We didn't like the idea of davits. They look ugly, but you know, as a liverboard, they're practical.
Yeah.
And in fact, the davits they were designed for the portaboat. So when we switched to the high field, which is obviously a little bit heavier, we were a bit worried about their structural integrity, but they appear to be holding up well so far. Yeah. I think with the davits, they're great for when we're doing coastal hopping, and we always haul the dinghy out every night. We always haul the dinghy out, no matter what kind of inebriated state we're in. We managed to get the dinghy out the water for two reasons. The first is that it saves on wear and tear and barnacles growing on the hull. Yep. And the other thing is security, which I think we're going to talk about in a minute. So those davits have proven invaluable, and we've come round to the idea of them.
Wouldn't have it any other way. So Alan Sellen, how carbon fibre compares to aluminium on the bottom? Well, I think a carbon fibre dinghy would be great, very light. And
in terms of weight, not sure, because carbon fibre can still be heavy depending on what epoxies you use and how thick it is. Of course, the advantage of carbon fibre versus, say, fiberglass is it's thinner, but aluminium is almost thinner still. So don't know about that.
Never had one, never been in one.
Ashraf, I think Ashraf's in the chat. He may be able to comment on using carbon fibre versus that.
Larry's saying carbon fibre wears away easily here.
Right, okay. There's been a couple of questions about PVC versus Hypalon. PVC...
Our first dinghy was PVC.
It was, it was a little Plastimo roll-up dinghy, which was very useful because it came in a big case that we could stuff down in the lazarette.
It was really collapsible, it was excellent.
But PVC isn't really UV resistant. Its UV resistant properties are lower, I should say, compared to Hypalon. The plastic, or rather the glue stitches, tended to come away after a while. It's not a great material.
No, I mean they're cheaper, so you could keep replacing them.
Yep.
Never say never, but yeah, Hypalon is what we feel is right for us.
Larry, who's Mobile Tech, who's doing our moderating, he said that the perfect dinghy is one that's just large enough to tow the vessel if need be, which is what we said. Now, he said he liked Rick's from Sophisticated Lady. Now, you looked at Rick's, didn't you? And apparently it's
huge.
It's massive.
I always loved a dinghy that size, but we don't know.
Isn't it a sit-down?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sit-down job. Well, I guess if your perfect dinghy would be to have a sit-down console. But, you know, we're living on boats that can't really manage that kind of setup. Costs a lot of money as well.
JCF, carbon fibre doesn't have near as good abrasion resistance as aluminium. So always learn something from you guys.
Yeah, keep these facts coming because, you know, we're learning as much as you guys.
How do you get the davits get on the beach? How do the davits get on the beach, Mobile Tech?
I think
davits don't get on the beach. I don't know.
He's asked Larry, so that's okay. So, alright, so let's have a little chat about the next subject, which is propulsion. So, in this section, we're really dealing with outboards and rowability.
Because you've got your dinghy, but then you've got to get something to move the dinghy. How far and how fast do you want to go? Do you want to be able to plane? How many people do you need to carry? All of those considerations. So, a perfect dinghy for you and me may be different to somebody else, but based on our needs.
Well, now the Plastimo we had, which was a flat bottom, was a real bastard to row. In fact, you just row round in circles. It was terrible. The Tinker,
fantastic.
That was, I think, possibly the best dinghy we've had for rowing, and I still can't quite work out why. I think it's because of the way the bottom on the Tinker is foldable, so it has these moving
it would sit
bottom.
slightly out. It was almost like a mini cat, wasn't it?
It was like a catamaran because the bottom sat out the water. Plus, we had beautiful wooden oars, which were just fantastic for rowing. The Portaboat was okay on its own, but as soon as Liz got in, it was hopeless.
Yeah.
And I have to say, actually, the Highfield is not bad.
No, it's not bad at all.
It's not bad for rowing. Quite like
right.
it.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with a lot of these dinghies is the rollocks on the side, which is obviously the pointy up sticky things that the oar sits down into. Quite often are not very well made. So what tends to happen is the cheap oars that you get thrown in with your dinghy package are aluminium. They tend to corrode. They come in two pieces normally, and that springy clip thing tends to fall apart. And obviously when you're rowing and you're doing a lot of rowing, you're exerting a lot of pressure and force on that, and that can be an issue, which is why I like the Tinker.
Yeah, I think manufacturers need to think about that. They think of it as an afterthought, but it's actually really important because a lot of the time you do want to row, you don't need to use your motors. So yeah, they should. Perfect dinghy, good oars and rowability.
Yeah. Propulsion in terms of outboards. Well, we talked a bit about our outboard. I think an outboard really does have to be powerful enough to get you and your big boat out of trouble.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important consideration. We spent a lot of years using our Yamaha 3.2. It was great. What we tended to find that, it still works.
Great.
But it would dictate where we anchored, didn't it? Because we felt that we had to be close enough to land that if the outboard,
I see what you mean.
You know, it would take a long time to get to shore.
Yeah.
With a bigger outboard, it means you can anchor pretty much anywhere because travelling ashore is that much easier. But
yeah. All I was going to say is we're not going to talk about all the different types and the brands and so forth. We're just talking about generally about what you need when it comes to propulsion. So the 9.8 is big enough for us. Can plane it. Takes us plenty of places.
Alapico, who's in Hawaii, I think. Hello. Sculling oar. We could use a big sculling oar. That's not a bad idea. I don't know how that would handle in big waves and current. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, why not?
Sometimes if the motor cuts out, we tend to row like this, both of us, very, very fast to get us back to the boat rather than the proper rowing. Daniel,
thank you very much. Question here in the super chat. Don't forget, click that little $sign if you want to get noticed. Daniel says, would you consider a sailing engine combo? Not entirely sure what you mean there, Daniel. Do you mean a dinghy that can sail, but you can also put the outboard on? Can you just confirm that for us? If that's what you mean, then yes, that's what the Tinker was. It was a sailing dinghy, but we could put the outboard on as well. Love the idea of that.
Yeah, really good.
Love being able to sail it.
Yeah.
Have to say, in practical terms, how often did we actually sail that thing?
We didn't, because it's not something that madly interests us. We only saw it a couple of times. I know someone with a Walker Bay, Poppy, and she just used the sailing kit in the Walker Bay all of the time, even in the marina she'd sail around, So yeah, it is a really good option.
We talked earlier about Torqeedo, and Torqeedo is the electric outboard. It's I don't know how many electric outboards are out there, but Torqeedo is probably the biggest name, isn't it?
Yeah. That we know.
Got a lot of interest in this, and from what we have heard, what we have seen on sailing forums, people who own the Torqeedo are very happy with them.
Yeah.
What we didn't look into, and if anyone out there can tell us, is the weight difference between an electric outboard and a petrol-driven outboard or a gas-driven outboard.
Has anyone got one? Doesn't have to be a Torqeedo, just an electric outboard. Be really interested to know what your experiences are.
Yeah.
But we like the idea. I like the idea of not having the fuel there and the quietness of it. So yeah, we're looking into that. What have we got here?
Okay, I think we move on to our fifth and penultimate section, which is theft. We talked about theft a little earlier, about security. What would the perfect dinghy have in terms of theft? We wanted to cover this because this was probably one of the most asked questions in our little bit of research when we told you about this, that we're going to do this live stream. A lot of people talked about
It's
theft.
a big concern everywhere we've been. In every country we've been, people do talk about it, and dinghies do get nicked.
That's one of the reasons why we hoist every night, because they can get stolen from your boat.
At least hoisting it gives you just one more step for them to have to go through. If you're just hanging it off the back, they can just cut the line and take it. If they can actually get on the boat and try and get it off the davits, hopefully you'd wake up and stop them.
Super chat question here from Mind Rover. Thank you very much. Do you keep spare oars in the dinghy? We don't keep spare oars. We keep one set of oars, and that leads us nicely onto what we're talking about, is theft. Okay, they could break, but also your oars could get stolen. I don't know who would be so nasty enough to steal someone's oars, because we all know you never get in the dinghy without oars, because your engine may cut out. If you have no oars with you, you're buggered. So no, we don't keep a spare set. We did have a spare set when we had the Tinker and the Portability. So we had two sets of oars, but we don't keep a spare set. One thing I do want to get is the Indian style
paddles.
Set of paddles, because I think actually they're actually even easier, especially if there's two of us, to row Indian style.
Yeah.
But go on.
Bicycle lock and chain at dock attached to major structure, question mark, Alapico, Malaluni. I can't remember what you told me to call your shortened name was, but yeah. So going on to theft, that is something that we do.
Yeah, we do that. We've got a long, I think it's a 6 to 10 metre cable, which is covered in plastic. It's UV resistant. That with a little swaged loop on the end, and that allows us to run it through the dinghy at a secure point in the dinghy. Don't forget, we've got an aluminium base, so we've got various holes and loops in the aluminium base. We can run it through, and that is pretty much secure. Oh, of course, we've also got underneath on the hull of the aluminium base, we've got two holes, one for the painter and then a spare one, not sure what it's for, but presumably to do exactly this, is to tie something more permanent to it.
It is always a worry, if you just drop your dinghy off at the beach and you need to be getting off the beach to go into town to do something, I don't know, whatever it might be, it is always a worry not to have your eye on it. So it is very important to try and secure it, and to secure what's inside it. That's the other thing. So for my perfect dinghy, I'd have a couple of lockers, small lockers, I don't know, lockable lockers where you can put your bits and pieces, definitely, and a way of securing the oars.
So just couple of comments here from John Predmore, going back to what we were previously talking about. How do you secure your dinghy on deck while underway? in extremely rough weather. It can become hazardous, and in fact when we had the porter boat folded up on the side of the boat crossing the Indian Ocean, at one point I had to run forward and lash it down again because it came loose.
We had to actually take it out and turn it upside down, didn't we, because the waves were getting inside it and pushing it off the side. So
it's a big
bad weather,
it's a big concern. I mean, I think with the inflatable that we have now, the rib, we would stow it on the back deck. We haven't done this yet, but we would stow it on the back deck. Don't forget, we're centre cockpit, so we have a little bit of space after the mizzen, and it would just be lashed down at 6 points or more, I think. Also, someone has come back with I just saw the weight of the torpedo, between 14 and 15 kilos.
Okay, great. That's
good to know.
That's the 1003C.
That's pretty manageable in my book anyway.
I saw that Delos one when they nearly got theirs stolen.
That's from Smash Dead, who says that Delos got theirs nearly stolen.
And it was on deck
in Madagascar. But you know what, we're just interested to know, what else would you like to see on the dinghy? And Ashraf has come up with an idea, is to building some kind of GPS tracker. Obviously that would have to be battery powered, but some kind of GPS tracker which you could track with your app. Really like that idea. And an integrated locking system. So yeah, if you've got any other ideas, we're going to go on to our final section now, which is going to be on accessories. But if you've got any other ideas or thoughts on how to make the dinghy more secure, then please let us know.
Just go back. Question here from Jamie Morrison: when you dinghy to shore, do you wear life jackets, and if you do, what do you do with them ashore? Well, actually we don't.
No.
We probably should, and certainly if you've got children, they definitely wear life jackets. Well, it's a problem. You just have to carry them with you. So very difficult.
Randy has a good point. We've heard of people saying not to buy certain brand of motors because of the popularity of people stealing them. It's a really good point, actually. We should just say one of the reasons why we covered our dinghy orange in orange Sunbrella was to make it look a bit too obvious so that people wouldn't steal it. You know, they see a whole bunch of dinghies in the dock, and the bright orange one is the one that's going to draw the most attention. The same can be said for outboards as well, and I think this is one of the issues with something like the Torqeedo. The Torqeedo is a very expensive, very desirable bit of kit. Of course, the issue with nicking a Torqeedo is that you need all the accessories to charge the batteries, so it's kind of pointless, at least with a petrol dinghy outboard. If you nick that, it's a standalone.
May not be as inviting as a straightforward.
Is that a reason for not buying it though?
No, I don't think so.
You know, because if Yamaha, let's say if Yamaha is the most reliable outboard, but it's also the most desirable for, I don't know, in the Caribbean for local people or other yachties to nick, should that be a reason for not buying it? Should you buy an outboard that doesn't have the same reputation or isn't quite as good in terms of quality, just for the sake of not getting it stolen?
Just come up here, not putting the ship's name on the tender, and also that was said, T-Bone MC said that, not reading out enough of your original comments, but we are using them. You know, we have the name of ESPA on our tender because with our insurance policy you are supposed to do that. You're supposed to have the actual tender branded, so that if it gets stolen and it's recovered, they know it's yours. So yeah, we do have it. The reason for not putting it on is so that people don't, you know, they're not aware where it's come from, and if there's a boat out there with nobody on it. So yeah, a lot of people don't bother. Yeah,
I would say that I don't know that is a reason why someone would climb onto your boat. Yes, it certainly advertises the fact that you're potentially ashore, but I would suspect that a lot of people who, thieves, would go round an anchorage anyway and just look to see if there's a dinghy tied
and
to
it
the
might
boat.
be that just one of you's ashore, you know, and the other 5 are still on the boat, so it doesn't really say anything. So we've got a super chat.
Mind Rover on super chat, click that little $sign. Thank you very much for that. GPS trackers can be battery or solar powered. Absolutely,
definitely good idea.
One dinghy we saw, which was a roll-up dinghy but had an integrated kind of rib system, had a torpedo on the back with solar panels. Did you see that? It's really smart. So it actually had solar panels on the back to power the torpedoes. So, you know, if you've got solar panels or a solar panel on your dinghy to power something like a GPS tracker, then again, Ashraf, take note. Could be good. So
we're still on theft. I mean, one of the things I always think is if you're going, obviously keep it on the davits or off the water when you're on the boat, but then when you go to shore, don't put it somewhere out of the way. I would try and leave the dinghy in a fairly public spot, so if anything were to happen, at least there are people watching, and that might deter chances. What does happen when you do that is that people will start to use your dinghy as a changing room, somewhere to put their shopping, somewhere to take selfies on, but at least there's a lot of people around, and generally thieves don't like lots of people around.
Okay, Courtney Gorman asks, can you put a different name on the tender than on the yacht?
Well, what's really the point of that? Don't really see the point.
Because maybe they want to give their tender a different name.
Oh, I see. Yeah, people do.
Yeah.
Yes. So people have, there's that famous windy one, I can't remember how it goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, people do.
It can be done. Okay, so we're going to move on now to our last section, which is accessories, and really we're talking about the perfect dinghy. So what accessories would you like to see on the dinghy? Now, this is something we talked with Ashraf about, wasn't it? Just sort of in this subject, I think it's quite important to have some kind of forward locker that allows you to put your gas can, your petrol can in, your auxiliary gas can.
That's something that gets nicked.
It's nice to be able, and we have a little section at the front of our, it's an open section, but it's like almost like a bulkhead, and it allows us to fit a 12-litre petrol can inside that forward locker, as it were. So that is a really useful feature to have. The other version of our dinghy actually has a enclosed locker.
Yeah,
which is lockable.
Looks great, and you can sit on it.
You can sit on it, and it looks really good. The only problem is that it's too small to put a 12-litre gas can inside, and I'm not sure actually of the safety of putting a gas can inside a locker. I
thought the fumes were supposed to get out.
Yeah, but that's one thing that we love about our Portability. We also got some pockets.
In Highfield.
Highfield. We also got some pockets made for our umbrella cover. Not so practical because they follow the line of the rib, and of course anything you put in there can be stolen. So I think it would be nice to see some kind of storage system that is completely secure.
Yeah.
That allows you to keep things like a head torch for when you use the dinghy at night, for example, spares, to be able to put that in some kind of storage system to keep it locked away.
Come on, let's have your ideas. What are we going to put on this beautiful dream dinghy of ours? I want a ladder that's permanent so that you can get out of the water easily onto my inflatable dinghy. Mind Rover.
Thank you, Mind Rover. A couple more beers from Switzerland.
Thank you ever so much.
Appreciate
they will be
that.
enjoyed tonight.
Possibly even this morning. It's still not 7 o'clock. One thing that Ashraf showed us was a ladder which was attached to a dinghy, and so they had glued on 2 fixing points on the side of the dinghy. This is an inflatable, and allowed a ladder to be dropped down so that you could get in and out of the dinghy, because we all know how difficult it is to get in and out of dinghies in the water. I think also the ladder could be removed as well, so you could clip it in place, and then it was contoured so that it went over the side, and I really like that.
Yes.
It's something I'd love to have for our...
Oh, definitely. We're going to get one, definitely. Louis Haruska. Never know how to pronounce your name, but anyway, cup holder for your beer. Yes. 2 cup holders for 2 beers.
Rope ladder. This is from JCF.
Yeah, I thought rope ladder would be a
rope
good
ladder,
idea.
Absolutely. Slightly less secure, but it's, you're
but
only climbing
it will
up.
fold up and not take up too much room, and then you just let it down, don't
Yeah.
you? So I think that's a really good one. Yeah. What else did we have?
I think that's pretty much all we had in the way of accessories for us. What else do you guys think? I think at this point, I guess we've been running for 50 minutes. We said we're not going to go on for more than an hour.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do now is we'll open it up to you guys. Any more questions on dinghies, and also any more questions just generally. We're going to sit tight now for another 10 minutes.
Just throw anything at us. We promise we'll try and answer. And I love, Joshua, the icebox idea in the dinghy. Also a very nice idea. I like the thinking of these people.
Just a little view. This is the view from outside. As you can see, the sun hasn't quite come up yet, but
oh, it's starting to.
It's starting to get a little bit light out there. You're looking west across the marina there. So yeah. Oh, someone said a horn.
Yeah.
A horn. Yeah. Really good idea.
And lights. We were talking about lights, weren't we, when we had this brainstorm with Ashraf and Bernie? Some kind of lighting system.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
an
all-round white light when we nighttime would be really useful. Now you can buy them actually, can't you? You can buy little sticks that you put on top of your outboard.
But the manufacturers should be putting them in there. I think.
What, on the outboard or the dinghy?
On the dinghy.
On the dinghy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it could be done.
Okay, Mark asks how the engine is doing. Right, well, we should have said that obviously we are here in Port Dickson. When you last saw us in our episode last week, we were stuck somewhere up the Malacca Strait. Well, as you can see, everything is okay, but we are not going to tell you what happened, because that is going to be covered in this week's episode, which comes out for Patreons today. So if you're a patron,
tomorrow.
What were we, Monday?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Patrons get to see it tomorrow. So if you do desperately want to know, then please do consider becoming a patron, because it really does help us. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until Thursday.
Yeah.
We're not going to give the game away on the live stream. That's not why we're here.
No,
is it?
It's not. We had to break it into two because there's such a lot going on and so much to say, but it all gets resolved and explained and shown on Thursday. So we'll see what happens then. We are hoping to leave the marina today, actually.
Yeah.
We are hoping to get away.
We have some clear weather for the next couple of days. It's about 130 miles from here down to the corner of Singapore, the west corner. So there is a possibility we could do it in one run. And if we do that, we would have to leave by this afternoon.
Yeah, and do an overnighter and an all day. So we'll just see how far we go. If the weather really comes in, there are places to anchor. And you can always get into the shallower areas and just anchor. Port Dickson Admiral Club Marina. Yes, Daniel, that's where we are.
Someone was asking whether you can get arrested for drinking in charge of the dinghy.
I suppose it depends on the country.
It does depend on the country. I imagine in Australia, probably, because I know you can be had for drinking at anchor. The skipper can be had for drinking at anchor. So possibly there. Don't know. Any Aussies out there might be able to fill us in on that. I haven't really heard of anyone being arrested for that. Of course, it tends to be after the fact. So when an accident happens,
yeah, I mean, if you hit somebody and damage somebody, then I imagine you would get arrested, but it's not something we're competent enough to give you an answer on. What level of certification do you have, and how much did it cost? Looking to do some training soon, so I'm interested. Naz, St Lucia. I've got my competent crew certificate.
I have my Yachtmaster Theory and my Coastal Skipper Practical.
Most of the time, just to sail your own boat, you don't really need any qualifications. In France, they want you to have an ICC. I
think. Well, certainly they used to. The ICC, the International
Been there for
Certificate
so
of Competence. That was the one country in Europe that did ask for some kind of qualification. Don't know if that's still the case. Haven't sailed in France for many years, so maybe if anyone's out there in Europe who knows whether we still need the ICC to travel through France. But on the whole, you don't need to show qualifications to authorities. At the most, you might need to show insurance when you go into a marina.
Yeah, that's normally what we have to show. But it's amazing, really, when you consider it, that you can just buy a boat and go off and sail. So I would suggest that you do some training, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely worth it for you.
Yeah.
If you're very new to it, just go out and do the one I did, which is the basic competent crew, just to get you used to being out on a boat for a week and seeing if you like it. I loved it, and so here we are. And we've had Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel,
for you guys. Cheers from an American trucker. Yes. Fair winds and calm seas to you too. And Robert Evans, he's just given us money, no message. But Robert, thank you, brilliant, thank you very much. And Mine Rover, safe travels. Look forward to the next episode. Yeah, so do we. So what have we got? We got loads of different things.
Let's just have a quick look. So we've got about 5 minutes left. As we said, we didn't want to go over an hour for this one. We will do some more live streams at another time and date when we have connection around the other side of Malaysia.
If you go back up, I can't remember who it was, but somebody asked us about the refit cost breakdown. Now, a number of people have asked this over the years. You've probably seen the whole refit. We couldn't publish anything because we were contracted with Sailing Today to write 6 articles, which they took ages and ages to publish. The last one's gone out, so obviously we did a very big breakdown on the whole cost of everything for Patreon. That was a Patreon only one, so if you're a patron you can see it, you can find it there on the posts. But we are going to do a quick run through. We talked about it the other day, now that the last one's gone out, so we will do a very quick run through of costs at some point, so keep watching.
Yes, we will do. Declan's asking about drones and drone problems in the Philippines. Don't know about the Philippines. In Malaysia it's fairly relaxed. I try to keep up to date with the laws. Each country is different. Thailand, I got a ticking off on one island by the park ranger there, but I've flown it in areas which surprised me actually, but Philippines I don't know about.
You tend to put it up in there and just wait to see what happens, just to get some footage.
Well, I like to just keep it out of the way of people and transport and what have you. Etelvina Santos, when do you come to Portugal? Well,
a long way away.
Portugal is one of my favourite countries, I should say. I love Portugal, both on land and around the coast, but of course we are about as far away from Portugal as you could get, so it will be a while, but would love to get back there one day. Go on.
How fast can you get your life raft overboard, and how big is it? From Richard Walker.
Don't know, we've never tried it.
No, we've never had it, because it's one of those ones that's all packed into a small case like this, and there's an emergency pull and the whole thing just opens up. So we have it right next to the back of the boat. We could get it out pretty quickly. Another reason for not having your dinghy on the davits is you really don't want to be cluttering up the back of the boat when you're doing ocean passages. You need to get access, so yeah, don't know.
Hi to the dude who just wanted to say hello.
Hello, dude.
Politically Incorrect says he'd think he'd stay out of the Philippines for the moment.
At the moment we agree, there's too much Abu Sayyaf kidnapping going on, and they're particularly nasty. They do behead people, so we've done pirates in Pirate Island and we don't want to do that again.
I think someone said 4x4 Conqueror said my 16-year-old son just got his competent crew.
Yes,
excellent, really good to hear that. Definitely recommend anyone wanting to get into sailing to just do some of these courses, just to get yourself familiar.
And if you want to but your partner's not quite so sure, get them a competent crew course. Do it somewhere really beautiful and it just gives them an opportunity to learn about it.
Colin Bailey has just come back to confirm that the ICC in France is only for inshore waters.
Okay.
Which
makes sense.
Yeah, thanks for confirming that. Fish Sticks has just chucked us a couple of beers. Thank you very much.
These beers, we're going to get very drunk tonight.
In the super chat, really appreciate that. And hi to Manuk, who's from Victoria. Good morning to you. So, I think...
Yeah, Declan's just saying that a lot of countries have banned drones now. We're watching it. It's going to change.
Yeah, I think most countries are now at least asking drone operators to have some kind of qualification or certification, just so at least everyone knows, who the drone is registered to. Should there be a problem for that?
And Larry has just pointed out, and I have seen them whiz by as we've been talking about the use of davits on ocean crossings. So we'll just talk about this for a second.
Go on then.
Well,
can't talk about it. We have talked about it. We said that for long passages we would take the dinghy off the davits.
Yeah, most people who do long passages never have the dinghy on the davits. It's for lots of reasons, for visibility, following seas. If you get bad weather, you very likely lose the dinghy. It happens a lot. You just really I mean, you get huge weather in some of these oceans, especially the Indian Ocean. We've experienced it ourselves, and had we had a boat out there, it would have gone. I mean, we lost lots of things that were lashed to the deck. So you really don't, you want to get things off as much as possible. So the best davits in the world.
It's just imagine it's a great big bath there waiting to be filled with water, and if you get all those gallons of water inside that dinghy, it's going to trash your davits and do more damage. So
it's just really not good practice. It's not clever.
And finally, let's just take this last question from John. John Predmore wants to know, how do you find a woman who will sail with you?
With a lasso!
Seriously? If you're asking the question seriously, there are
loads of women who sail.
There are crew seeker type websites out there where you can match crew with skippers. It's not necessarily for dating, it is for finding crew, but definitely worth looking into that. If not, frequent your local bar.
Go to sailing schools? I don't know. Good luck on that one, John.
Okay, so here's a nice little view of Port Dickson. It is now 7 o'clock in the morning. We said we would wrap it up after an hour, so this is us saying thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's been fun. We said that this was really just to have a bit of fun, and also maybe just to give some ideas to people who are about to go out and buy a dinghy. Just a few considerations there. We really appreciate you joining us, and it's not a subject that we are experts on, so we appreciate people commenting as well.
Yeah, we've learned a lot, and hopefully within the chat, because I noticed that people are talking to each other, you're all learning something, and we're getting opportunity to put our points of view across. But as a Liverpool cruiser, if you're thinking about doing this, give an enormous amount of consideration to your dinghy. People think about the boats and forget about the dinghy. You in fact spend probably more time actually going around in your dinghy than you do actually sailing, I'd say, because you're taking it ashore almost every day.
Yeah, good
it's
point.
A huge part. I mean, you love a car, probably. It's like your car.
Okay, so thank you very much. And just finally, a big shout out to Mobile Tech, who is Larry, who very kindly volunteered to be our moderator today, and he's done a great job. He's been answering a lot of questions and covering for us, and we really appreciate that.
Thanks, Larry. Thank you very much.
It's been really good. So from Esper and from Port Dickson, I guess we say goodbye and peace and fair winds.